Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has embarked on a tour to Gujarat where he's going to be there in the state for 2 days. There was a 1 kilometer long roadshow which was held, and this, mind you, is the first visit by the Prime Minister to his home state after Operation Sindoor. Now, ahead of the PM's Gujarat visit, the roads and the streets in his home state, they were seen being adorned with gigantic billboards, posters, hoardings, hailing the Prime Minister as well as the armed forces for the successful Operation Sindoor. In fact, these huge posters and billboards were seen in Ahmedabad, Bhuj, and several other places. But the big questions which stare at everyone, and I'm going to talk about those questions only because Prime Minister is celebrating for what? I don't know. If he's trying to market the valor of the armed forces, we'll try and find out answers to that. But for us, the biggest questions are, why didn't Prime Minister have the time to visit areas like Poonch and Rajouri, where people are waiting to meet their Prime Minister? Their dilapidated homes, their compensations in waiting, nobody has the answers. That is question number one. Question number two, why did the ceasefire take place? If you are celebrating the valor of the armed forces, why did you stop your armed forces from completing that operation? We had faith in our armed forces. They could have done wonders. They could have annihilated the Pakistani forces. But because of that one decision of the ceasefire, the Operation Sindoor did not come to a fruition. What about that? Who gave the orders for the ceasefire? Why did Trump mediate when India and Pakistan were a bilateral issue? That is also a crucial question. Why did Foreign Minister inform Pakistan before the military strikes? And what about those BJP leaders, the likes of Vijay Shah, Jagdish Devra? Of course, now Prime Minister Modi has put a gag order. So the gag orders for the BJP leaders, but does Prime Minister have the license to politically misuse the armed forces in this manner? These are the questions which we'll raise over the next half hour or 40 minutes. Joining me now is a very special panel this evening. We are joined by, I can't see my guest right now. If you can switch over, then I can see who all have joined. Yes. So we have Professor Ajay Gudawarti from Jawaharlal Nehru University. We have Professor Mohsin Khan from the Jindal University, International Affairs expert. Thank you so much for joining. We have Siddharth Sharma, who's an independent media analyst. Thank you so much, Siddharth, for joining. And I'll begin with Ajay Gudawarti. Ajay, what would you really say to this brazen politicization by the Prime Minister of the Armed Forces? Billboards, huge cutouts, red flags, cutouts of the BrahMos missile, all welcoming the Prime Minister for what? When there are so many answers which we have not got from the Prime Minister.
Nilu, I mean, this is nothing new. This has been the general trend of Prime Minister Modi for last 10 years. Not just armed forces. You saw that even beginning with Gujarat, Godhra incident, to Pulwama incident, now to Pahalgam incident. There is a distinct mode in which this current regime immediately links a very tragic human incident where people have lost their dear and near ones, and that loss is completely sidelined. There is no discussion of that suffering, and then it's immediately linked to electoral narratives. So even if you look at this narrative very closely, Nilu, you'll see that while it is great to see Colonel Qureshi being projected, but that is being linked to the question of women empowerment, to the question of Sindoor. On the other hand, you'll also see that why this is being politicized is on other hand, you will see immediately that Mr. Vijay Shah makes a counter comment demeaning Colonel Qureshi and saying that she's a sister of the terrorists. So what does this tell you? That it tells you that on one hand, you want to appeal to women voting constituency, perhaps in Bihar, maybe in upcoming other elections, but there is a very clear-cut messaging of women. Because this loss is not just of women, if you come to think of it. People have died across board. Why is this being projected as Sindoor? when women have lost their lives. So why is this specific no kind of framing happening unless one senses some kind of a social link to women, independent women constituency? And then you have Mr. Vijay Shah immediately countering it, perhaps to consolidate their core communal vote bank, which would then wants to see Colonel Qureshi as a women, Muslim women, rather than as an armed forces specialist. Then he also did something interesting in Gujarat, that in his speech he talked about development, green energy, global development number one. And this again has been an old strategy of Mr. Modi, that once you politicize in some aspects of communal polarization, armed forces, terrorism, he immediately takes it to development. So that those questions that come in electorals' mind, that how long can we have elections around questions of terrorism and armed forces, he clarifies that by saying immediately this is about big time development, big time infrastructural development, so on and so forth. So this, I think, is a set pattern narrative. You saw Vishwanath corridor, the temples, tourism, infrastructure being linked. So I think a heady mix of religion, terrorism, communal polarization, and development, I think, has been more or less the broad narrative structure of how Prime Minister Modi, kind of sets the tone, which is very electoral in sense. Because otherwise, why do you want to have a road show around this? I mean, this is Operation Sindoor is not something to have a road show around, because there are tragic human loss. What about that loss? Are we as a society being equally compassionate? And that one woman whose husband was, that Air Force was lost, Mr. Trivedi, and she gave a statement, kindly don't make it Hindu versus Muslim, Kashmiri Muslims have helped us, and you completely trolled her. So what does this tell us? That there is an immediate narrative structure that is being strongly built, which has a pitch as women as a voting constituency, and that is again being seconded by. I don't think Vijay Shah is a happenstance. I don't think Vijay Shah is speaking out of his turn. I think there's a set narrative structure to this. Core vote bank is being appeased through Mr. Vijay Shah. Then women as an independent social constituency is being appealed by projection of Colonel Qureshi. So, and this is not a new narrative structure. This is a pretty old narrative structure, along with third layer, which is development, that Mr. Modi has been following for last 10 years or so.
Mohsin, I'll come to you now. What is Prime Minister Modi celebrating all about? I just don't understand. Uh, I'm not denigrating my armed forces. I have all the salute. I have all the respect for the armed forces because they did what they could. And but in the middle of the operation, there was a ceasefire. So is that not humiliating your own armed forces? And then back home, you come down to your state and you are celebrating it with billboards, with flags, with hoardings, with posters. What does it mean? What is the kind of message which Prime Minister is trying to send out?
Niluji, a country is much larger than one person. One person's life or lifetime has little meaning in the lifetime of a nation. A nation is far greater than even a political party or even some operation that has been conducted. So I want to focus on the larger questions. The nation wants some answers. We were told that Pakistan would be taught a lesson, and Pakistan has been taught a lesson. In fact, the Prime Minister said that he agreed to the ceasefire only because Pakistan begged and said that it would never repeat what it had been doing in the past, that is terrorism and wars. But it doesn't appear to have been the case, because as soon as the ceasefire was announced, Pakistan violated the ceasefire, according to all the media channels. This is not the behavior of a country that's been defeated or some people who have been brought to their knees. Secondly, the government refused to call it even a ceasefire and said there's an ongoing operation, possibly because they don't want to address what we have gained or what we have lost in the process. The government doesn't want to answer questions in parliament. And the Prime Minister has been avoiding all of this. So as a democracy, we have to have accountability, and we have to have an accounting of what happened in the war. The United States, for example, gives a full accounting. The UK gives a full accounting of what happens in its wars. It is only because of that they're able to improve their performance in subsequent battles or wars, you see. And it is because they value the life of their soldiers. Here it appears the BJP and its supporters don't seem to value the lives of their soldiers. They don't want any kind of accounting. They insist on fighting irrespective of the cost to our soldiers. And there is no accountability even in parliament. So in the US and the UK, not only does the government answer in parliament, but the armed forces come and explain their performance. Even the intelligence services give a briefing to the country because the taxpayer pays for them and he needs to know what they're up to, and they answer questions, even the intelligence services, because you cannot have without transparency good performance. As we know, if you don't have any accountability, then it leads to a lot of corruption in any organization. It leads to incompetence, and it costs the nation its security, and it costs lives of our soldiers, of our citizens. So we need some accountability, but Prime Minister Modi never does it. He always disappears whenever there is a crisis, whether it's COVID or whether it was with China, and he says things which are clearly not in accordance with reality. He said that neither has anybody entered the country nor has anybody occupied the land when China was being confronted. He refused to take the name, the word China was anathema to him. He was so scared. So he has again disappeared. But when it comes time to take advantage of what the army has done, what the armed forces have done, then he is front and center. His billboards are there. A person who has never had even basic training in the military, not even fired a rifle probably once in his life, is in full general's regalia, full army uniform, on posters across. Clearly, it's a move to encash what the soldiers have won on the battlefield. Similarly, as my friend Mr. Gudavarti said, it's a mix. His electoral strategy has always been a mix of sometimes dog whistling communalism, sometimes direct communalism, mixed with some developmental jargon, some claim, and then that's mixed with some kind of pride or asmita. It started off with 2002 Gujarati Asmita, when people accused him of mishandling and, in fact, collusion in the riots. He said they are attacking Gujarati Asmita, Gujarati pride. Now he's shifted the burden here. And it is he who receives the warriors' welcome, the victors' welcome. Unlike in the United States, where when the ticker tape parade was arranged for the victors of the war, it was for the warriors who had won the medals or for the generals who had led those warriors. It was not for President Roosevelt or President Wilson that a ticker tape parade was arranged. In fact, it is the unique honor of India that our Prime Minister twice, Jawaharlal Nehru, received a ticker tape parade on Fifth Avenue in New York. This has never been done for any head of state twice. On top of that, the president would go to receive him, not just at the airport. The president didn't even come to receive Prime Minister Modi. Trump didn't even come to receive him at the entrance of the White House. He waited for him in his office. But for Nehru, Kennedy didn't just go to the airport. He entered the aircraft, welcomed Nehru, virtually carried him to the car, and then led him through the streets of New York and Washington. So
I know these are all facts, Mohsin, but the troll armies and these andhbhakts will not understand this logic and facts. But the point is that today we are discussing on this program that why is there a brazen politicization of the armed forces, whether it is showering petrol on Colonel Sophia Qureshi. You might have a moment of optics there just because her family stays there in Vadodara, and all the ANI cameras were focusing on on her father, on her brother, and they were very happy. They gave sound bites. What are they trying to project? And on the other hand, you have Muslims who are mob lynched. You have Muslims whose houses are bulldozed. And then here you are trying to make her the poster girl. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You could have done this with many other Muslim girls. But at this particular juncture, when you have an Operation Sindoor, and then you bring out this angle with this kind of an inclination, what does this really show, Siddharth? I'm coming to you now. What are the questions we should raise at this point of time? Because the questions which I raised in the beginning, and I'm going to raise it again. The basic questions on ceasefire, and apart from that, has Modi been able to avenge the deaths of Pahalgam? All is being done in the name of Sindoor. Now, Sindoor has become a political property, it seems, of BJP and the Prime Minister. But the point is that what about those 26 women whose Sindoors were wiped out? Has Prime Minister Modi been able to avenge the deaths of those 26 husbands?
Well, obviously, any prime minister of any nation, he has to look at all the citizens of that nation without bias or prejudice. And it would have been nice for the prime minister to have visited Pahalgam, where people died, even locals died in that carnage done by the terrorists. Then again, during Operation Sindoor, and because of the Pakistan shelling from the other side, civilians as well as military personnel, even uh, some IS officers have passed away in Poonch. So the Prime Minister should have ideally done this, that he should have visited both Pahalgam and Poonch, but obviously he has not deemed it fit as of now to visit those places. And it is for him to answer why didn't he do that, and it is for people to take notice of that and read into it. But as your program's thumbnail suggests, what is the how can we decode today's Prime Minister's rally blitz? So before decoding it, we have to go through the entire chronology. First, what Pahalgam happened? It was government security lapse. The government of India itself admitted it. So the Pahalgam was a security lapse, that is -0, -1 for the BJP government. Then Operation Sindoor was totally military's achievement. Nobody else was there. In fact, I would like to show you one shot today. Just after the Prime Minister's rally blitz today, the military, the government, the military of India, the Indian Armed Forces have released photographs of the day the Operation Sindoor was being carried out from within the war room. Everything, including the timestamps of that operation, are already on Twitter, and this has been released today by the Indian Armed Forces just after the Prime Minister's rally blitz. So he is the Indian Army or people within there asking questions or telling people of India that I'm again reiterating that Operation Sindhu owned, designed, and operated by the Indian Army, not by anybody else. So whether it was trolling by somebody or not, I don't know, but that is a reiteration. The third, so -1 for Pahalgam because Government of India admitted to its lab security labs, +1 for the military because of successful operations in Indore. And again, because of the ceasefire, there has been a huge ignominy for the government. Everyone knows that Trump announced a ceasefire. The government of India accepted it. Again, that -1. So there is -2 towards the government and no positive marks for the government of India. We have to see Modi's rally today in this light, that the government is already, the Modi Sarkar is already on the back foot. They are -2, -1 because of the Pahalgam security lapse that they admitted to, minus again 1 for the ceasefire that they accepted because of Trump. So -2 and 0 in their basket. So how do you make this up? So I think what I saw in the Prime Minister today was a Prime Minister batting defensively on his home pitch. Let us understand that any player, and Modi ji is a wonderful player, we have to accept that. Even Mahendra Singh Dhoni has a certain swag around him. When he walks to the crease, he has a swag. So you cannot take the swag away from him. Now it's another matter that even if he has swag, if you see his match, the way he plays, whether he attacks or whether he defends, then you will understand whether he's batting on a difficult pitch or a very favorable pitch, whether he's batting aggressively or defensively. As far as swag is concerned, the swag remains whether he scores 0 or whether he scores a century. The swag will remain the same. But the key here is to watch Dhoni batting on the pitch and understand whether he's batting on a difficult pitch and not scoring that many runs, as happened in this IPL, or he's going blazing all guns away. So today, a few things that I'll his statements today, the Prime Minister's statements today, one by one I'll tell you, and how I'll tell you how this is very defensive of him. First was he clearly said he spoke for 45 minutes. He was speaking in a rally of tribal areas in Dahod, and the event was many developmental projects. So he spoke for 45 minutes. Out of those 45 minutes, for nearly 35 or 40 minutes, he spoke in Gujarati, in the local language. Only in the last 5 minutes or so, 5 or 10 minutes, he spoke in Hindi, and that is where the crux of the matter is. That is where the message is. First is that he said that military was given full freedom after Pahalgam about how to respond. So he admits essentially that the elected legislature of 240 BJP MPs who were running the government essentially gave up and outsourced a complicated issue to experts. That he has admitted to, and he has admitted it to today again. So that basically shows that the Prime Minister has said that it was such a complicated matter, the response to Pahalgam, that they had to outsource it to the military. And when he says that he gave free hand to the military, that basically says that he outsourced the entire operation. Point number one. Point number two, very surprisingly, he said what military achieved in those 88 hours astounded the world. That was his word that he used. When he says astounded the world, that world includes Mr. Modi himself. So there is a huge possibility that although it was outsourced, the government itself did not envisage or did not even imagine that within 80 hours, the army and the Indian military armed forces would do such a wonderful job as to literally bring Pakistan on its knees. That was where we all saw that on 10:30 a.m. Colonel Sofias Qureshi essentially, for all practical purposes, said that Pakistan has been bombed from Skardu to Karachi to such an extent that their aircrafts are not flying, their radars are not working. So everything was under kitty. So essentially, the Prime Minister today said in Gujarat that after outsourcing, he did not even imagine that the army would give such a huge lead within such a short time. That also means that there is the key to the ceasefire, that he might not have calculated that ceasefire to come so early, but the army's pounding of the Pakistani military installations brought that ceasefire to such it advanced it. So basically, without saying so much, the Prime Minister said that what benefits, what gains the army did for India, instead of capitalizing it, I had to capitulate to Trump because army did it so fast that I had no time to react. It was an ad hoc decision. It was a decision that had to be made so quickly because the army had literally bulldozed everything. So that is the second admission. Uh, these two things make many things clear. It means that the BJP government has today realized its following shortcomings. Shortcoming number one, it knows that complicated issues now need experts. This is a huge pivot from what BJP does earlier. BJP and its entire ecosystem goes around town sermonizing on all issues that doesn't concern them. Baba Ramdev comes on during Corona, he comes out with a coronal. RSS and the entire BJP ecosystem sermonizes on everything. Even the Pradhanji himself, yeah.
No, but today let's restrict ourselves to the roadshow of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What is the kind of political messaging? Pushpraj Deshpande, who's the author of the Bharat Jodo Yatra book, and he also works closely with the India Alliance. And let me get in Pushpraj at this point of time. Pushpraj, what do you think is the message which Prime Minister Modi has sent out today through his roadshows with big billboards, posters, red flags, with cutouts of BrahMos missile? That's how he was welcomed. What is the kind of message which he is trying to send out? And what is he celebrating? I just don't understand. What is the celebration all about?
Neeluji, a very good evening to you, our panelists, and our viewers. Please accept my apologies for the delayed joining. See, firstly, our armed forces, frankly speaking, transcend politics. Each officer and soldier sacrifices a normal life for our safety and security. Their willingness, training, and readiness to pay the ultimate sacrifice for us cannot and should not be reduced to partisan politics. To reduce our soldiers and armed forces to mere props, and I want to say this advisedly, to reduce them to mere props for political brownie points is a mockery of what they do. Sadly, Prime Minister Modi and the BJP government are doing exactly that. The BJP government's posters on Operation Sindoor with Prime Minister Modi's photos, not just publicly on the gas petrol pumps, on the IRCTC website and many other places, they're proof that the BJP is milking our soldiers' work, their deaths, their sacrifice for petty political points. It is not only politically distasteful, but also unbecoming of our Prime Minister. Now see, if Prime Minister Modi had celebrated our soldiers, or if he had visited the families of our soldiers who were hurt or lost their lives, or supposedly some planes have been downed, if he had visited them, then we would have all recognized that this was a tribute by a grateful nation for their service, and we would have joined the Prime Minister in this tribute. But there was not a single poster, at least to the best of my knowledge. I did not find anything. I scanned every picture that I could find. I did not find a single poster that honors the armed forces who risk their lives daily in this particular rally. All the BJP did was to take out rallies to take credit for our soldiers' toil, sweat, and blood. It is not just unethical, it is unstatesmanlike, Neeluji. Thirdly, and I want to make a larger point here, Prime Minister Modi has not visited Kashmir after Pahalgam. He has not visited the families of those victims who were brutally murdered in Pahalgam. In fact, his troll armies have actually caricatured and vilified some of them. He has held no press conference after Operation Sindoor, and he has not responded to President Trump's claims. He has not done anything substantive to apply balm on an attacked and angry nation. He has not told us or the parliament or everyone except BJP chief ministers. He has not told us what exactly has happened, what exactly is happening. Nor has he defended the national interests against President Trump, who is busy internationalizing the Kashmir issues. What he is doing right now is rallies. I mean, frankly speaking, Prime Minister Modi has chosen to prioritize political messaging, political brownie points over accountability. Otherwise, why has his government not arrested yet the perpetrators of Pahalgam attack? Why is his government not sacking those people who lifted the security cover in Pahalgam? Instead of focusing on substantive governance issues, Prime Minister Modi is currently focused on his personal PR. Now, leadership, I could be wrong, and I think he is my Prime Minister. All of us believe that his government is our government. He is our Prime Minister. We believe in the line of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, in the line of Prime Minister Vajpayee, leadership should focus on substance over showmanship, especially when serious issues demand attention. Public trust grows with actions, not with such displays, not just with performative displays. And one last thing, Neeluji, the Indian Army's motto is Seva Paramo Dharma, which translates to service before self. Their service is for the whole nation and for every citizen, not for one party, not for one community. What the BJP has been doing is not only to give it their sacrifice a communal trend, but also giving it a partisan trend. What they are doing is politically, ethically, and in the national interest despicable. I wouldn't stand for it. Neither should any progressive viewer watching your show. Thank you, Neeluji.
Absolutely. In fact, I was speaking to a number of people, retired people from the armed forces, who said that this is a kind of a cheap publicity, which no one could expect that Prime Minister Modi will resort to this level. But coming to you, Ajay, now that Pushpraj has explained it very well. It does seem that Operation Sindoor, the aims and the objectives were, of course, to avenge the deaths of the people in the Pahalgam terror attack. But now it seems that the entire operation is now just reduced to a political and personal triumph of Prime Minister Modi. Should we not call this out in many, many strong words now?
Of course, that's an important thing, and I think Pushpa has already reflected on that. But I think, Neelu, one should also not forget a much larger question that one should raise in a democracy: that should elections be fought around war? Isn't this a very dangerous mix to have election campaigns around war? War is something that comes at an unavoidable stage. War is a strategic decision. War is a security-related decision. But if you begin to politicize war, suppose Modi wins war or elections on the basis of war, I think that's an even greater danger that we are staring at, because this has long-term consequences for Indian democracy. Because we are again being told, as we are during Operation Sindoor, that one should not ask questions when there is war-like situation. That's one reason which you must have noted, Neelu, that they are now also saying, the BJP spokesperson repeatedly saying that Operation Sindoor is not yet over, that it is still continuing. Why are they saying that it's still continuing? I mean, one does not understand what is this. I mean, they said that it's 1 month since Operation Sindoor is over. Now they're saying it is still And this will continue indefinitely as long as opposition and citizens have questions. They'll keep telling you opposition Sindoor is continuing. Therefore, what does this mean? That it is not merely about a roadshow. It is about long-term erosion of Indian democracy, that you are being repeatedly told that you should not ask any questions of the government. There should be absolutely no accountability. There are very important political issues that one democracy should, war or no war, one should not lose sight of these questions. For instance, Pakistan, what was the motive behind this attack by Pakistan? That they wanted to once again internationalize Kashmir issue on their terms. Have they succeeded or not? This is a question we need to debate as a nation. Similarly, we need to debate, why did India not get the kind of global support it got all through in the past, during Mr. Manmohan, during Mrs. Gandhi's time, during Mr. Nehru's time. India had a global standing, and nations went out of their way to express their support on all previous occasions of terrorism. This is something shocking, absolutely, that we did not have a single nation standing by us. And that's why Mr. Modi was compelled to send
Here.
an
Ajay,
opposition
can I
team.
interrupt and ask you here that have you heard of any other statesman like leader celebrating this kind of a conflict, and through his personal publicity, through posters, through banners, and cutouts of BrahMos missile? Have you seen it in any other country happening?
Nowhere. As far as maybe Erdogan might do in Turkey. I mean, all these
That is
autocratic
a
nations might do this kind of strategies, but a sensible political nation. And Nilu, this has very long-term consequences. You are telling citizens to celebrate death. War is no good anywhere. War has to be the final option, and that's why you have a political class and political leadership, because you need political solutions to problems. If war is the solution, then we have to hand over the nation to the army. Why have a civil leadership? Why should Modi come and take credit, give it to the army and hand over the nation to the army? Why do we have a civil leadership? Because in democracy we feel war is not the way to settle, discussion is the way to settle. Political class, that's why you need a creative political elite. But things have turned on their head, that instead you're not even giving credit to the army, even that bit you want to usurp. And so this, I think, is dangerous, not just about this roadshow, but long term you're giving a very wrong message to citizens, that no, war is something to be celebrated, death is something to be celebrated. Even if you have responded, even if you have won Operation Sindoor, I don't think it's an electoral issue. That's a strategic decision you take, how long you want to have a war, when do you want to call out. If you begin to win elections on the basis of war, then tomorrow, I mean, get institutionalized. Tomorrow, some other party might come. Everybody might think this is an easy way to win an election. And what happens to economy? What happens to poor people dying? What happens to our soldiers' life? So many questions. And then we are told we can't discuss any of this because it's a warlike situation. I mean, this is a dangerous, giddy mix for the future of our democracy.
Yes, I think Pushpraj wanted to say something. You raise your hand, Pushpraj. Yes.
No. I think what Professor Gudavardi has said right now is exceptionally important, because the Aztecs, they used to have these sacrifices, which used to serve as a collective catharsis for the entire society. It has mass psychological effects. He's right, because it does become, you start fetishizing war, violence. And this is a country from where Mahatma Gandhi has helped us win our freedom on the basis of ahimsa. If you are genuinely believing in Mahatma Gandhi as a father of the nation, if you genuinely live and abide by the values that sort of fired up our freedom struggle, you cannot be fetishizing war. And the fact of the matter is, even the General Naravne, he basically said in a public meeting in Pune that for a soldier also war is the last option, because no one wants to lose their lives. Obviously, you don't want to lose your lives. You don't want to lose your husbands, your brothers, your sisters. You don't want to lose them. Violence cannot be the first and last resort for a nation. It might be a first and last response for a nation like Pakistan, where the ISI needs a war to legitimize itself. But it can't be for a mature nation like India, which is, it's a behemoth compared to Pakistan. Are we going to, is our comparison a failing and a flailing state? It can't be this. And I'm sorry, the BJP is reducing us to that level. It cannot be this. we are better.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering of those epithets which we have heard in the last 1 month or few days. 22nd of April, this Pahalgam terror attack took place, and since that time, what are the phrases which we have heard? पाताल में घुस के मारूंगा, चुन चुन कर मारूंगा. Then Prime Minister saying कि हमारे नसों में गरम सिंदूर बहता है, लहू नहीं गरम सिंदूर बहता है. Now, these are the kind of epithets with which you are familiarizing the society, familiarizing the young minds, the students at the school level, students at the college level. I don't know what are the takeaways for them. But Mohsin, coming to you now, what are the big lessons from this? I don't want to get into this, this entire narrative of Prime Minister is wrong or right. It's about what is good for the nation. Where are we headed as a nation today when we are trying to institutionalize what Ajay and Pushprat said is absolutely right, that we are institutionalizing a war-like narrative, that you can win elections on the basis of war. Where are we headed to then?
Actually, it's more dangerous than what even my friend Gudavarti is saying. Because if you are going to fight elections on the basis of war, what ends up happening is that you end up making decisions which are not in the best interest of your citizens itself. That is, you may end up fighting when war is not required and losing lives. Or you may fight excessively to the point where you end up damaging yourself and the other nation. Or you may not fight at all if you find it convenient, even at the cost of losing your territory or losing your security. So, apart from what effect, moral effects it will have on the country, on the children who are growing up, and on our democracy, it might have material losses for our nation, because what is convenient in the electoral stakes will be decided as the right course of action on the battlefield as well. And there's another problem, you see, already because of this excessive Hindu-Muslim division, which pays off for Modi and BJP in the elections, we have weakened the country's security. We have weakened the country's security with respect to Bangladesh, calling them termites and even calling the Muslims of Bengal as Bangladeshis. We have weakened Kashmir considerably because the Gujars, the Bakarwals, and even the people of Jammu would give us a lot of information, intelligence. And as A.S. Dullat has pointed out, the former Raw chief, we are not getting it anymore because of the discrimination and violence, anti-Muslim violence that's being inflicted on the Bakarwals, Gujars, and the Pooch. Similarly, the show that was shown of blowing up terrorist houses and arresting thousands of people. They've arrested 2,000 people and blown up so many houses so violently that even the surrounding houses have blown up. Now tell me, didn't you know that these people were terrorists? Did you find out only after Pahalgam that these people were terrorists, or that these were the houses of terrorists? You didn't know before that? So a lot of optics is being done. Innocent YouTubers are being arrested as Pakistani spies. What is the point of arresting a YouTuber who has got no government position, no army position, no secret access, and her and the other Haryanvi boy and that Sikh boy, they are just YouTubers who happen to travel to Pakistan. So a lot of optics is happening, just as a lot of optics happened after Godhra. A lot of violence happened. The nation paid for it in the long term. The nation paid for it in terms of our lost security, and we will pay for it again this time, because if this is the kind of politicization that even war will undergo.
Yeah. And in fact, what we are discussing has been summarized very well in an interview to Karan Thapar. And who gave the interview? Indian author and former senior Indian administrative officer, Avay Shukla. And he's expressed grave concerns about the state of the nation, stating India is becoming a nation of duffers. That is a very, very strong statement given by Avay Shukla. And he says that India is becoming a nation of duffers and is regressing to the Neanderthal stage. Now, this, if people have read this, and if people have seen this interview, it's really an eye-opener. Siddharth, I really want your concluding comments now on this show.
Yeah, we all know that BJP essentially deploys its reductionist approach to anything, and then it tries to appropriate credit of others to itself. We know that. But we also have to understand that BJP's vote share or BJP supporters are only 23 crore people in India out of the 140 crore people. The proof here is that even after the military did such a successful, wonderful thing with Pakistan, that even if BJP has been trying to take credit for Operation Sindoor, we do not see that kind of warmongering or jingoism in the people of India. You don't see that. Even BJP had a lot of difficulty with launching their Tiranga Yatra also. Even the Prime Minister today in his home state of Gujarat, where in 2022 the entire BJP ecosystem has done certain, what do you say, social experiments, today had to choose to call in, invite Colonel Sophia Qureshi's family to his roadshow. That goes on to show that the people of India today are more understanding, they are more deep, they know that it was a military, as a professor said, it was not a war, it was thrust upon us, it was a compulsion, it was a strategic decision. We took it, and within a few hours the military, once it achieved its objective, it's back to its barracks. Even if the political class, including the prime minister, is trying to take credit for it, I think the people of India, you are not seeing that kind of gung-ho attitude across India. You're not seeing people coming out of the streets and cursing Pakistan or anybody here. Everyone in India is going about his job. Except that BJP is trying to. Haven't you seen that BJP is trying? It's finding it very difficult to launch its Tiranga Yatra on a large scale. It's trying to put it posters itself. Whereas for a simple thing like a cricket match being won by India, the people spontaneously come out of their houses and take out crackers out of their houses and burst them. That wasn't seen during Operation Sindhu. That goes on to show that the people of India have understood certain things. BJP, of course, it tries its reductionist approach. It tries to kidnap or hijack the credit of others to itself. But there are other people also that push back, and exactly the kind of sample I showed. Mr. Modi in Gujarat, the moment he said today, "Mera Sena ko naman hai," the Sena decided that let me show the operation how it happened, and then there is an entire collage of pictures with timestamp which shows the entire military how it is running that operation, and no civilian is sitting there. Nobody from Mr. Modi's cabinet is sitting there, including the Honorable Prime Minister himself or the External Affairs Minister, or forget External Affairs Minister. Even the Defense Minister is not seen. That goes on to show that there is an India today which knows how to deal with things, accepted that BJP, because of its political compulsions and it's habitual, it's kind of an habitual offender to reduce something to its own benefit. It also goes on to take credit of others, but the people know where the credit lies. It's not about, as I said, it's not about Dhoni's swagger. Everyone has his swagger, but they see that how he bats on the pitch, he knows, they understand that this is a difficult pitch he's batting on, and that those are the $2 million questions that every Indian has in his mind, which the BJP hasn't been able to answer. Why did Pahalgam happen when a nationalist government was in place? And how come when POK and Akhand Bharat both were in the clasp of Indian Army as per Indian Army's own decision, how come the political class, that is the BJP, give away that benefit instead of capitalizing on the army's gains? Why did it capitulate to the ceasefire? These two questions, unless they are answered, the people will be tempered, howsoever BJP tries to pump it up.
No, but no matter how brazen this politicization of the armed forces is getting as far as the prime minister is concerned, but I'm wondering who advises the prime minister on this kind of ambivalence. On one hand, he says that we've given all the operational freedom to the armed forces, they did what they could. And then here he seems to be taking credit through posters, through billboards, through all sorts of publicity material, and he is the man in action. Look at the posters. With a bulletproof jacket, holding a helmet, and as if he's just walking up to the borders. So, till when is this going to continue? And if we are saying that Operation Sindoor has not ended, so is this a deliberate political ploy so that people don't ask questions? And towards the end of it, again, our questions remain. Who ordered the ceasefire? Why did Trump mediate? Were we able to avenge the deaths of 26 tourists who were our own people? Why did you stop your own armed forces from taking this entire Operation Sindoor to a fruition? They could have won the war And now, what are we celebrating for? So these are the questions. And of course, the most significant question, why did Prime Minister not visit areas like Rajouri, like Poonch, like Pahalgam? But he had the time to first have a rally in Bihar, and now today, a big road show in Vadodara. I'll leave you with these questions. Thank you so much, Pushpraj, Professor Jaguravardi, Mohsin, Siddharth. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.